Good morning. This is Deborah Rose, Deborah
and
Colleen.
Lewin Morris.
Yeah, and we're talking again. This is a continuation of a podcast that we were doing during the COVID. I love saying the before something. You got the virus, you know.
Got the Rona.
Yeah, you got the Rona before the pandemic. The pandemic. I think that's a Southern jargon thing.
Yeah, probably.
you know. In England, it's kind of cool. They don't go to the hospital; they go hospital. Take them to hospital. They don't even say the. They're just too lazy to say the.
Well,
So here's some things. We are not just boring old women. We actually have lives outside of Zoom, outside of these rooms. In fact, we spent all day yesterday recording videos to support our new business endeavor. Miles of Smiles. Miles of Smiles has been around for years. It was the idea of a friend of mine, and then once she got me all excited about it, she moved away. It says here, and then I got sidetracked doing something else, and same thing, but with a different group, and then circumstances have led me back full circle. And Luann is doing this. My husband and son are doing this. We have a friend Eric doing this, and we're an interactive entertainment company, which is a fancy way of saying that we come and entertain you by telling fortunes and doing handwriting analysis and all kinds of things. And we're kicking it up a notch with some customized services that we're developing. And we were videotaping all this yesterday, so I'm tired.
yeah, it was hard to kind of be on, uh, smiling and making sure that you're being pleasant uh
Hand motions, hand motions.
and hand motion that makes your body move a little bit. And Eric is a very good teacher of don't be static.
Here's
And
what I don't get about the camera. The camera adds 10 pounds or more when it videotapes you, but it diminishes your actions. So you have to do big actions like Vanna White, you know, and all that stuff. And I wasn't even being recorded yesterday, but I was
yes, she
stupidizing,
was.
and asking some of the questions to intrigue great interviews, to intrigue them with great answers.
And those of us who are not used to speaking in public, which I'm kind of hoping this little podcast helps me out a bit, we say and well, quite a bit.
Or if you're like me, you go, what? What?
And a lot of times I will look up or look down when I'm trying to retrieve my answer.
Which
And
is normal.
Eric's like, don't look down. Well, fine.
Well, that's really not normal. In NLP, they'll teach you that when people are trying to recall something, they usually look up, trying to recall something. So the fact that you look down is kind of weird. You're
And
odd.
when I look up, it's always up and to the left, and when I look down, it's always down and to the right. Okay, so and so I don't know what to tell you.
I don't either. I don't either. But we digressed as usual. We all have lives. Like I have a private investigation company, and I also do handwriting therapy. And those don't sound related, but if you understood the progression of how I got here, then it looks like there's something on the back of my hat. There is. Where did that come from? It belongs
What is
here.
it?
It's a feather.
Well, how did it
There.
get on the other side?
I don't know.
All right.
I don't. But I have a private investigation company and I do handwriting therapy, which progressed from me doing forensic analysis. But, again, I digress. Luann, other than aggravating me and,
I'm good at that.
pushing all my buttons, actually is an herbalist. Is that right? Is that how you
That's
say it?
correct. I am an herbalist.
In England, which I'm so fascinated with now, I guess because the Queen has just passed, they call them herbs, and here we call
Herbal,
them
herbal
herbs. I
herbs.
think English really speak better English than we do. I
No,
do.
no.
I
Why?
do. I mean, first of all, like uh, they have to check the situation. I like, or however they say it. I mean, they say all of the syllables. They say all of the letters. If you're not going to say the letters, why are they in the word?
Well, they spell color, COLOUR.
Do you know I do that naturally? Like behavior and words like that that have OR in them. I first spell it OUR, and I have all my life.
Oh,
I think it means that I am a reincarnate of some English royalty. Because, in the old days, only the rich and the clergy, maybe I was a clergyman in a past life. They were the ones that could write and read. So, but I do that. I naturally put OUR. I know
that's
you're just
fascinating. That's
dumbfounded at how
fascinating.
fascinating.
That's fascinating.
All right. So, anyway, so Luann is an herbalist, which does not make her a witch. But if you want to change one of those letters, she might fit that category.
And yes.
Yes. Yes. So tell them something brilliant.
Well, how about the fact that this is not a new invention? Where it's having a comeback with a vengeance because we've started infusing the essential oils into the air of our homes, and you have doTERRA, Young Living, tons of different kinds of people that say, here's our essential oils. Use your little atomizer and infuse them into the air. That'll make you feel better. And they do. I have a spray mist that I use that has essential oils of lavender and chamomile on my pillow at night. Yes, and that's a protection
It looks like
spray.
there's a snake in there. Look, look, it's a witchy potion.
It's it's orange peel, people. Orange
I,
peel.
it freaks me out every time I pick it up, though, because the things move around.
Mm. Well, if you think that looks like a snake, then I think the sage that I put in there looks like a liver. So okay, there's that.
Ooh, you're right. Thanks for that.
You're welcome. But
Oh, God.
the use of essential oils um, really goes back as far as Egypt when they were preparing the bodies for burial. They would grind the herbs and almost, uh, make them into a paste and coat the body like myrrh, frankincense, cedar oil, things like that. That would
That's
help.
why they were so expensive, right, though? Because, you know, they were important.
Yes, they were given an important status, and in a minute we're going to talk about modern costs. But that's kind of how it got started, but it wasn't recorded until like 17 BC to 18 BC. There was some recordings of actually distilling the properties of plants and plant materials to make essential oils.
Let me clarify this for people. That does not mean it's recorded on Zoom or Facebook. It means it was written on the walls of caves. And if they were really progressed, it might have been done on papyrus
Yes,
scrolls with some
papyrus
kind of
roll.
henna ink. All
That's
right.
That's correct. Papyrus rolls. That was the most common way. Uh, ink. The red ink came from the carmine.
Blood. Blood.
No, it came from beetles. Beetles were crushed, and they made a red dye with that.
That would be blood. It's just beetle blood.
Okay, good.
I like being
Well,
right.
there were lots of different ways because that early on, they would take a fat and it could be cold, but they would lay the plant materials down for 24, 72 hours, and then they would scrape the plant materials off the fat, and then they would put more down. And so this would be a progression of extracting the essential oils with fat.
What kind of fat? I mean, like pig fat or
Uh,
what?
yes, or lard. that would be bovine or cow, any kind, whatever kind of lard that was, maybe in Egypt, you're talking lamb, goat,
Mm.
you
Isn't
know,
it fascinating that they figured out how to do that? You know?
exactly.
And
And
it's always fascinated me that the monks figured out how to make beer. And,
they,
and unless
yeah,
you're religious in that way, that's the most wonderful contribution they've made to mankind.
they made a mead that was just fruit, yeast, and water, and sugar, of course, probably honey.
I
So
love honey mead. I
yeah, it
love
was
honey
called a
mead.
honey mead. So the other way they finally, they would heat the fat to infuse the oils into the fat. And basically, I kind of do that now. I make a jojoba oil with chamomile and calendula, and I put it all into a pint jar or quart jar, whatever's the biggest. And I put it into my well, it's not a hot plate. It's a, darn it.
Crock-pot.
It's like a crock pot. It's the one that also pressurizes. But anywho, I put it on the yogurt. I put it at about 140 degrees Fahrenheit and and kick the heat up, immerse the jar in water, 140 degrees for 24 hours at least to extract the oils and the essential oils and the chemical components out of the plants. Because essential oil isn't just, oh, what did I do with it?
Why do they call it essential oil? I mean, why don't they just say oil? It's the oil of the plants. It's the oil of the
Right,
herbs.
but the essential oil contains more than one chemical. I mean, you're talking, let me just say, this is oil of wintergreen, okay? It contains methyl salicylate, orange oil, D-limonene, which is another component, linalool. All of these work together to give you the scent of wintergreen. Cassia, which is also cinnamon in cinnamon, and cinnamonaldehyde, which is also in cinnamon. So many, many plants have the same components, but they're just put together differently, either more or less. And the one thing that gives wintergreen its characteristic smell is the methyl salicylate. So, I
I'm
mean,
surprised you can say that. That's
uh,
impressive.
well,
Methacillate.
that's from years of science. I don't always pronounce them correctly. Uh,
Well,
all you
that's
have to
still
do is
impressive.
listen to my podcast when I talk about genus and species, when I'm talking about herbs, and
Yeah, tell
everybody.
them where your podcast is that they can find about all the different herbs. Where is
Um,
that?
it's on blog. It's on Blog Talk Radio. Make It So Network, and I'm going to start probably doing it other places too. But this is the main place you can find it. So if you go to Blog Talk Radio and put in Make It So Network, that network is owned by Elizabeth Harbut, and she does a lot of metaphysical things. And she kind of started me out doing this because I would give the plant components and the constituents, and then I also give the metaphysical properties of the herb because that's a lot. And one of the things I'm passionate about because I am an herbalist is finding out what it could interact with or what the cautions are for either taking it or using it.
Yeah, you have to be really careful about mingling things. They can have reactions. And you also have to test yourself for allergies because, like, there's some cedar based things I can't use because I have a cedar allergy and things
Right.
of that nature.
Um, I wish I had the article in front of me. There's a senator from California whose wife was taking something to help her lose weight, and she was not taking it correctly because she actually became dehydrated and died.
That's terrible.
Yes. Yes. And so these are the things that you need to be highly aware of. And even, she could have been taking other things that were dehydrating, such as blood pressure medication. But you have to know, you either have to be your own advocate and look up the information, or you have to talk with your doctor, for heaven's sakes. If you're going to go to the doctor and spend all this money to be healthier and have blood pressure medicine so you don't stroke out and et cetera, why are you just taking something off the shelf because somebody said it would work?
Well, that's very true. Like when I go to the doctor, I have to take a buttload of vitamins because of a condition that I have. And some of them are at toxic levels because I don't absorb them. But regardless, when I go in for a physical once a year, they'll go, give us a list of your medications. Well, I'm not on any medications. I know it's crazy. You would think I was on a ton of them, but especially lithium, but I'm not. But I take a complete list of the vitamins I take, the supplements, and the dosages because they have to know that. And people overlook that, and I have to do that with my mom. She goes, "Oh, I don't take anything but my thyroid medication." I'm like, "Oh, that's not true. Let's go through the whole list." And otherwise, the doctors can't treat you properly.
No, and if your a focus is being holistic in your medications, then you need to find someone that is into herbalism or Chinese medicine, or someone that can truly help you transition from prescription medications. It's just, it's just so many things interact. Let's look at ashwagandha. I take it to improve my mood. It reacts different with different people, just like other medications do. Carrie, it makes sleepy. She makes it sleepy, so she doesn't take it during the day. I don't have a problem with that. It doesn't make me sleepy at all. So I take it first thing in the morning, mid morning. Elizabeth, it tore up her stomach. So she didn't want to take it at all. And I don't blame her. I mean,
You can't take it on an empty stomach.
well, and she doesn't. She didn't take any of her
It
medication.
still tears her up. That's terrible.
So everybody reacts differently to different medications. But if I hadn't been insistent on, okay, you can take it, but then let's find out, and then she'd say, well, I'm kind of feeling this way. And I said, well, it could be the medication, because just because it's an herb doesn't mean it's not uh, chemically potent. Uh, let's talk about digitalis just a second. The pharmaceutical companies took foxglove and extracted digitalis from foxglove. Now they synthesize it, but that's where it came from. So if you can get something like digitalis from foxglove, you can get other components that don't make your body feel better. It makes it feel worse. And people don't realize, hey, this could be the herbal I'm taking. That's why you just don't want to do it willy-nilly.
Well, not everything works for everybody, and for years I was an advocate for children that had mental health concerns. And and this just frustrates me. And this is a whole nother show we can do later on. They have never done really any thorough studies of how antipsychotics and different mental health meds affect children. So they're just throwing this stuff out there willy nilly. But we do know that people that take lithium can get dehydrated very quickly. And so there would be these kids in school taking lithium, and their coaches are putting them out there in PE, making them run laps in 90-degree, 100-degree weather. And so we would have to have a special meeting and go in and get their curriculum adjusted to where these kids are not required to be out in the heat, or they were able to take 5-minute breaks every 10 minutes to drink water, or something.
Mhm.
And it was just ridiculous how a lot of the schools would fight us
Yeah.
because they didn't want to have to make those accommodations. And I mean, you're like, what accommodations? You're just not making them run. You're not making them be in the
You're
heat.
keeping them hydrated. Well, I think it's more mainstream now to keep kids hydrated, because there have been athletes
Yeah.
that have died, high school, junior high
And
athletes.
I've often wondered though how many of those athletes were on like ADHD medications
Oh, well,
or
you'll never know
you
that.
know, because that would have enhanced the symptoms of dehydration,
Mhm.
you know.
Well, which this medication this senator's wife was taking would be the same result. If she was exercising a lot and not keeping up with her water levels, like 64 ounces a day, if you're taking something that's supposed to dehydrate you, you're really supposed to
So
drink that much
the
anyway.
bottom line is you can't look at one thing in any area of our lives. We have to
Yeah.
look at the whole thing, which is why we're so, big on holistic. Holistic means whole. Duh,
Yeah.
you know.
So back to essential oils. I'm sorry. It's the same thing with essential oils. There may be something you're allergic to. And if you have pets at home, you need to truly look up whatever essential oils you want to infuse into the air at home because some of them affect dogs, some of them affect cats, and not in a good way. So you need to be an advocate for your pet too,
Do you have
not
an
just yourself.
example of something that's common that
Oh, I knew you were going to ask that.
I
No,
know? I ask the hard stuff.
I didn't. I did not look that up. I'm
Well,
sorry.
they can Google it. Google's great for stuff like this. It really is.
Yeah, so this common method that happened out of all this is distillation. And I think that it happened when they realized, hey, we can put plant material in water, or we can put plant materials in alcohol, or uh, some, especially if you're gonna um, in, ingest it. So they came up with distillation, which is what happens when,
You get bourbon.
yes. And just think about, I know it's kind of a cliche, but back in the woods of the Ozarks, when you think of the distillation and
Where I'm from,
it has that little curly cute thing. So what happens is the um, water boils or simmers, and so the steam comes up, and then as it cools down through the coil, you get the oils out, and that's how you get essential oils. You can use many things. Oh, but what I do is to make sure that now in modern times, I purchase my oils from companies that produce it organically, uh, when it's ethically sourced and not overused. There's a big controversy right now about white sage, and they're not cultivating it. It's difficult to cultivate, or so this is wild harvesting that's taking place, and they're really concerned about it being destroyed.
well,
So
it's the
you
same
want.
with Indian sandalwood.
Mm,
That used to be very common, and now when you see sandalwood on the shelves, generally it's not Indian sandalwood, and that's really the nicest smelling sandalwood. It's the
right,
most potent one, but it's almost extinct now, and you can't hardly get it unless you're going to pay a big dollar for it.
right, and you need to make sure it's fair trade. You know what I mean by fair trade is that the people producing the plant material it are paid a wage, a living wage.
Right.
That's what they mean. And of course, non-GMO. So I do my best to search out those things. I don't want to just uh, provide something in my product that is not organic, because I'm trying to make what I call clean products. In other words, you have pronounceable things in your product, like my healing cream has shea butter, coconut oil, cocoa butter, castor oil, jojoba oil, beeswax, vitamin E, calendula, frankincense, chamomile, lavender, rosemary, and heliochrysum. And many of these things in my healing cream, these essential oils that I put in there, are for antibacterial, antiviral. I originally designed this healing cream to put on a tattoo. My son wanted it to put on his tattoo.
I put it on
And
my face.
And I do too. And it has a very mild antibacterial property, because you're not supposed to use things like what's it called? Uh, Triple antibiotic ointment on tattoos, but this is very mild. It's not as potent as that. This is more like Aquaphor, which
Well,
is
I won't say that it's gotten rid of all my wrinkles because you can look at that and see that I was lying. But my skin is softer. I have less pore issues and blemish issues.
Mhm.
The fine lines are much, much softer and less noticeable. Um, so I really think it works. I like it. I use it on my cuticles and they're not as dry. I have really bad cuticles. So,
So many of this distillation process started in Egypt, Prussia, and India, where the main, like the frankincense, the myrrh, the sandalwood, that's really where it kind of originated and then made its way to Europe and then made its way here over time as people started importing and exporting. And so it's very interesting, the whole history and how it took place. But now the common theme for essential oils is distillation.
well, that makes sense because, um, nobody wants to get better at somebody else's expense,
Mm,
so the fair trade issue is
right.
really important. I think it also adds to the integrity of the business. And, so these are all the physical things that we've been talking about. But if you use essential oils from a metaphysical or spiritual standpoint, the energy that goes into making those oils will affect the spiritual component
Right.
that you're using them for. So I think those things are important to know if that's important to you.
Well,
So,
it is important to me because energy is a exchange is a big thing to me. And if if it's a equitable energy exchange, then it makes the product for me energetic oh, for crying out loud, energetically viable. In other words, there's positive energy in there instead of negative energy. You
So
know,
for you people that don't understand energy exchange, let me explain it to you really quickly. Energy exchange is the equivalent on a spiritual level as getting spit in your mouth when you're kissing.
so all these things we're talking about now in this modern age, like organic, ethically sourced, fair trade, non-GMO, that adds to the expense. And many people don't, when I talk about the expense of my products, they're like, oh, well, yeah, because here's a good example: 250 pounds of rose petals,
Oh my gosh.
250 pounds of rose petals to make 1 ounce of rose essential oil.
No
Thir-
way.
30 mils, 1 ounce.
Wow. Wow. I can't even imagine how much, I mean, what would a pile like that look like
Well, I
even?
don't know. Just take one rose and weigh it and see how much it weighs and then extrapolate. I mean, that's a roomful, a
Well, that
roomful of
explains why
roses.
there's so many crappy rose scents out there because the fake ones just don't cut it.
No.
Just won't cut it.
And you can't, I'm actually thinking about making my own rose water to do a facial spray. And that's not as difficult to do at home as you would think because you set up a pan and allow the distillation of the steam to hit the top of a container and then go off on the sides. And then you collect the water.
Yeah, but roses themselves are expensive. Just buying, a dozen roses. You're
Yeah.
going to find a really good source or have a rose garden.
Well, that would be the ideal thing to have a rose
We
garden.
could make a run to the White House.
Pardon me, sir. Can
Now,
I
didn't they
take
dig up
these?
the rose garden? Didn't they dig up the rose garden? I don't know.
I don't know. I doubt it. I hope not. So,
You're just a wealth of information on all this stuff. But the thing that gets me is that I think what's left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths about essential oils is there's a lot of MLMs out there. And, most people try to steer clear of those once they've had, a bad experience with a product or a company. And I often wonder how they, because they all say they have the best quality. They have the best quality. This is the best, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
How do they validate that? How can we prove that? How do we know? We don't.
Well, there's a company called Vitality, and they do a really good job. There's a company called Mountain Rose Herbs, and they do an excellent job. And they tell you right up front, here's how we get said product, and they show you pictures. And so there are companies out there. And I'm not saying that doTERRA or whatever, Young Living, I'm not saying they don't. Um, but you can just do the research. If you look up Mountain Rose Herbs or Vitality, you're going to see other companies. But I know they're good quality because I've used them for years.
Well, and now you can go into almost any store, Central Market, and everybody has some kind of brand of essential oils. And just on a lark one day, because I'm so easily bored. I bought like four brands of
Mhm,
certain
mhm.
difference night and day, texture, thickness,
Smell.
smell, and you're like, how is that even possible? And the price range was not that different. So it wasn't like the cheap one was the watery one and the more expensive one you felt like was a better quality. Some of the cheap ones I thought were better. So you can't go by price.
And it's not about texture or watery or thick, because some essential oils are thicker than others,
Yeah.
naturally, naturally. So yep. So here we go.
Well, I
I
find it fascinating. I do. But one thing I want to hit just for a second is that, there's so many people that are involved in essential oils, and I think that's good. But if you're going to buy them from someone else, how do you know who to do business with? As far as when they're making products out of it, not the oils themselves, but they're like you're very transparent on how you do things and you explain it in detail. So what questions do people need to ask?
They need to ask about the source of their oils. Where do they get them? Do they manufacture them themselves? Do they manufacture these oils? Um, I can't answer that question for any of the like doTERRA or Young Living because I'd never researched them. So I they need to ask about oh, what's it called? Oh, for crying out loud. It's where they do an analysis of the oils. And do they do regular analysis of their oils to make sure that they're standardized?
So they just do testing, period.
Yes, testing. Mhm.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. I love it. I
Uh,
do. And
There
I
is
just
there is a company that I've recently started using. I did that because I can get it quick from Amazon. GYA, Gaia, GYA. They do an excellent job.
see, that's
And
good to know. That's really good
and
to
that's
know.
something that you can buy quickly and get here. And just remember that, you're getting very small amounts. And that's why I like that particular company, because if something I want to try, I can get these very small amounts for, 10 to $20.
Well, this has nothing to do with essential oils, but it kind of does. There's a perfume company that's been around for several hundred years, Caswell Maxey or something like that, and they sell these standard perfume scents that have been around for 200-300 years. And there's a really wonderful perfume out there that has a sandalwood base note that I love. I mean, I just want to crawl up in people's lap and purr when I smell it, but it's like $300, for a small bottle. Well, this perfume company has the very same scent. I mean, they're almost identical for 75% less that they've been making for 300 years. So just because something's more expensive doesn't mean it's better.
Well, many of the components of essential oils are now synthesized.
Yes.
And that's what you smell in your perfumes, the synthesized oils.
That's why they don't last as long either.
Maybe, perhaps, but you know,
So,
it's
like Estee Lauder, somebody puts that on there, you're going to smell that for a week. I don't know. It gets in the pores. I don't know what it does.
I was trying to think of the one my mom used, and it was the same thing, Royal something. And I thought, man, she had the powder, she had the perfume, she had the
Yeah.
everything. And I was like, well, I'll be smelling that till I'm old and gray.
Yep. Yep. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, what else is going on in your world that you want to talk about?
Oh, I don't know. Um, this is totally in the opposite direction, but I have been told not a lie, but kind of a lie by omission.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Is it the truth? Is it the truth?
It's part of the truth.
Well, that's partly a lie. I mean, there's some things that it is kind of black and white still.
Mm.
I know we like to live in shades of gray in this world.
Well, and this has to do with meeting someone else, and he happens to be male, and meeting someone else and getting to know them and being told, well, I am seeing someone else. Okay. Does that mean you don't want to see me, date me? What? Well, I'm kind of exploring things. Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's fine. And so you have one date at the bar. You have one date on the phone, and you have one date at the bar, and then you have another date for dinner. And then you're told, I'm not going to see you anymore because we've decided to be exclusive. And how do you know? ah, mm. So how did you not know that 3 dates ago when it was only 2 weeks ago? It happened. It surprised me because he did not say how serious it was.
Yeah, it seems kind of odd. I guess it's possible. And, this is coming from someone who's had many, many relationships and many, many marriages. Um, I guess it's possible to make a decision and finalize it in a day, but normally you're building into it days,
Yeah.
weeks, months, even.
And
So that seems like it's odd that he was hedging his bet. It's what it sounds like to me.
yeah. And so from my perspective, it's like, well, 2 weeks, in 2 weeks, I don't make up my mind in 2 weeks. I kind of felt like that he already had decided that this was the girl for him. Why go out with me?
Right.
Why are you making something uh, hopeful? I mean, I'm not like, he was very nice. He was easy to talk to.
But you know what I would like to know? When things like this happen, and I hear stories all day long with my investigation business. I don't do a lot of domestic cases anymore, but we did for years. And the stories, they all had a pattern to them. I don't care what the circumstances were, there was always a pattern. And the pattern is that the central part of the pyramid, if there was a threesome going on, they knew exactly what was going on, but they weren't telling the other two sides of the pyramid. So I would love to hear her perspective. Did she know that he was hedging his bet? Did she know he was looking at his options? Did she know that they were not already exclusive? I would just love to hear that because,
Well, exactly, because I was told that they both see other people, you know, and that I don't know.
But you feel like you were lied to, so now you don't know if any of the things he told you was true.
correct, because I hadn't known him long enough.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Well,
So it just gets it's a wonder anybody dates anymore. It's a wonder that I can't tell whether you're lying to me or not. I mean, obviously you're telling me the truth as you know it.
I'm not sure I ever normally dated.
Oh no, I probably haven't either. But
I mean, I did a lot of dinner dates when I was single and things like that, but I dated a lot, and I either dated a lot of different people or I
mhm.
was exclusive. There was no in between for me, you know. And usually if I was exclusive, I married them. I never lived with anybody or whatever.
Well, I
But
was married. I didn't get married till I was 40, and I've been married 27 years. So yeah, it's a whole new world.
well, I told you, I'll just tell the rest of the world because I am going to eventually put this in my book if I ever sit down and write it. You know, my daughter's father, that we were married 4 years, I guess, left the marriage and came out as gay. And we had a lot of things going on in that marriage. And what was really weird is um, I don't know, I really thought we had a good marriage until he was gay.
Surprise.
You know, but he put me in danger physically because of
Mhm.
his activity.
Mm.
And so after that, I was just very cautious because I found out that there were a lot of people out in our world of people that we knew that were bisexual or gay living undercover. And I'm like, okay, I'm just not going to take a chance on having to find this out sooner, later than sooner. So one of my prerequisites when I would date a new person is we'd have to go and get an HIV test as our first date. And I don't know why that was important to me because, looking back, you think, well, that was really silly and stupid. But the fact that they were willing to do that made me feel important. It made me feel like I mattered and that they would take consideration of my emotions and my feelings more than the physical aspect of, let's make sure that, you're clean and I'm clean and we can do whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
And so I actually went through that process in all of my dating situations for about a year after that. And then I guess I got to a place where I had reached a comfort level or I had healed enough emotionally or whatever that was no longer necessary.
Hmm.
But as an investigator, when people call me and they tell me that they believe that their spouse is cheating or their partner, I tell them the first thing you do is go get an STD test. You've
Hmm.
got to know that you're healthy first. Then you can start looking at the other aspects of the relationship.
Yeah.
What, did I freak you out?
No, I just never had to worry about that when you're married.
Well, you think you don't, but then there are a lot of people that do have to worry about that because
Yeah,
their whole world is blown up.
right.
And that's why cheating is such an issue emotionally, mentally, and physically. It's a holistic sin, I guess, if you want to call it something. It's a holistic sin because it damages people on all levels and puts them in danger.
Hmm.
So I like that holistic sin. That's the Baptist in me coming out.
Oh dear, holistic sin. Well, life is crazy nowadays, it seems, and so I just find it easier to stay home and mind my herbs and
Well,
uh,
yeah, but you'll get past this. Nobody likes to be lied to, and nobody likes to feel like they've been taken advantage of. And it's unfortunate that as we get older and wiser, we think the rest of the world is getting older and wiser, and a lot of them are just getting older.
well,
and they're and they're not getting any better ethically or morally.
well, it just seems that if you're that close to being exclusive or spending your time with just one person or actually talking about spending your life together, why are you trying to start a relationship with somebody else or a conversation with somebody else that might move to different things? And it just kind of
Well, I think
makes
there's a
my
lot more
mind
to the
go,
story. I think
huh?
there's a lot more to the story than what you know. A lot more.
I think so too. So of course I'm a very curious person, and so I would love to have asked about 5 million questions, but it's not worth the hassle right
No,
now.
it's really not. And my thing is that I always like to reframe things. The reframe is thank God you didn't spend any more time with this.
Well, exactly. And but uh sometimes inside though you go, what am I, chopped liver? I'm not good enough. I'm not, but
No, I'm going to give you permission to do this in the future. Look, dude, my best friend is a private investigator, and I'm having you checked out. If you give me any iota of a knee jerk reaction that you're not telling me the truth, and she will find it out, and I will. I will. But on the other side of the coin, it always freaks me out when people say, when they find out I'm an investigator, when I first meet them, they go, "Oh, are you here to investigate me?" And my first thought is, what the hell have you done that you think you need to be investigated? But I'm always like, no, no one's paid me to investigate you, and I'm not interested enough to look into it.
well, I did some surveillance once for a friend, and that was enough.
It's hard work. People have no idea. They always think it's fun, but it's hard work.
Yeah.
And for every interesting story you have 100 boring ones.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, it's hard. Even then, what year was that? That was in the early 80s. Even then, it's like, I don't know if he's telling me the truth or not. So it's a common human failing.
well, there's something about us women, and I include myself in this. We want to give people the benefit of the doubt. We we always want to think the best of people as a rule. Not everybody, not every time. But this is the thing that has always flipped my lid. I'll have a woman call me, "I think my husband's cheating on me." Okay, why do you think your husband's cheating on you? Well, because here's a motel receipt, and I know he's been talking to this woman, and this is her name, and this is her driver's license number, and this is her social security number. And he goes into to the bedroom at 4 o'clock in the morning, and where I can't hear him, and has all these conversations. And then I found a picture of her breast on his phone. And I'm like, he's cheating. What? Why are you calling me? You need to do one of two things. You either need to go see a counselor and work your way through this, or you need to call an attorney to find out how you need to protect yourself legally while you file divorce. Then, if you file for divorce, you can call me because I'll go and get the things that your attorney needs to get you more than 50% in the state of Texas.
Yeah. Um, yeah. But I have also had men tell me, I'd say, well, is that the truth? I said, well, I'm telling you what you want to hear.
Ooh, ooh. That's when you slap all four of their cheeks individually and go home.
You're telling me what I want to hear? What are you kidding me? You
What
don't
I
want
want to hear is that you have a sexual ability to please me for 10 hours at one time. You have $5 billion and you have no children that I have to be involved with. Tell me that.
I'm telling you what
Dadgum.
I'm telling you what you want to hear. No, you're not, because I
Well,
need honesty.
the point of all this is that no matter what age you are, dating is hard.
Mm.
Dating is hard.
So do you think, like in the 80s when I was doing that surveillance, it was because someone was under the impression they were lying? So is that a human malady? Does that cross boundaries between male and female? Or do you feel that maybe it's mostly men who don't tell? It's not a lie, it's just the half truth.
If you asked me that in the 80s, I would say it's mostly men. Now it's equal. I
Mm,
get just as many men calling me going, I think she's cheating on me. But women are better investigators than men. Men don't call me with all this information that they have found on their wives. It's really interesting. They're working off their gut and they're working from their emotions, which is what women used to do. And now women are the ones that have all this information, and but they don't want to accept it. And generally, what they want is to hire an investigator to make them face reality.
mhm.
And I really figured that one out when I had a client that hired me 5 times.
Oh,
And
dear.
5 times we found her husband cheating with different people. Twice he was cheating with women, and 3 times he was cheating with men. And when she called me the 6th time, I said, I'm not taking your money anymore. It makes me feel bad. You know that your husband is cheating on you. Either accept it and go on your merry way, or here's 3 attorneys that I can give you. Call and talk to them and see which one you
Mhm,
like.
mhm.
You know, I have talked myself out of more money in my career than I have probably ever made, because I cannot take people's money when I know that I'm feeding into their maladies and their insecurities and their mental health issues and whatever.
Well, I mean, once a cheater, always a cheater, right?
I don't think that's true either. I
No?
really don't. I think that people grow and change if they want to. I think a lot of people never stop, but I do think that other people do. Sometimes they mature, sometimes they have someone that inspires them to grow. Sometimes they just lose interest in sex. So it's just a natural result of their physical health. Um, but we know from like rapists and sexual criminals that even when they're unable to perform sexually, they can still rape and do things because it's about power. It's not about sex. So I just don't think there's any carte blanche scenario you can lay out and say this is the way it is. You know,
Yeah, I
I
don't
would hope that this guy has gone his merry way. He's found the love of his life and he's going to straighten up. My fear is that he's not, and as soon as she disappoints him, he'll be back on the dating scene. You
yeah.
know, now that
Okay.
is a pretty normal thing, but it's not across the board.
Okay. I need to
I
stop
was
thinking
just letting
about
you.
it so much.
I was just letting you process.
Yes, I am. I'm processing, and um that's some of the biggest woe I have in meeting someone. You just they tell me something and I'm like, mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me end this on a funny story. I don't mind making fun of myself or whatever, but so I've been married several times, plus a couple. Okay, so you do the math. Anyway, one of my husbands cheated on me regularly, and that was a very short-lived marriage. I thought I would push my way through it because I had small children, and I finally just reached a saturation point where I could not look myself in the mirror and tolerate this. So we wound up getting divorced. That's a whole great story. That's going in the book. But 10 years later, his new wife called me. She knew who I was and told me that he was cheating on her and she wanted to hire me. Now, she was also one of the women that he cheated on me with, or however you say it. So he had been with her while he was married to me. I just died laughing. I'm like, are you kidding me?
What did you expect?
That's what I said. I said, did you really think that he would treat you better than he did me? Really? And here's what she said, and I die laughing at her. She goes, "I can't help it. It's the best sex I've ever had, and I can't give it up." I said, "Well, don't give it up. He'll just keep cheating on you, and you'll get it when you get it." I said, "But I don't know what the best sex means to you, but that's sad." So, you know, one woman's Romeo is another one's, you know, Hunchback from Notre Dame.
Well, if it's the best sex you've ever had, then that's what your relationship is based on. Having sex with him when he's home,
Oh,
right?
jeez.
Right?
Why would she call me of
Well,
all
because she's
people?
an idiot.
I laughed so hard I tinkled on myself when I hung up the phone. I seriously, I could not stop laughing. I'm like, okay, I don't believe in karma in the traditional definition, but if it does exist, this is lovely. This is wonderful.
Okay, well, now you know how it feels.
Yeah, I do. And I just think that you are a very kind, loving, giving person, and you think everyone else is, and you're going to have to remind yourself to trust your intuition and listen to it in the very beginning instead of your loving side. Listen to your intuition side. I bet they fight a lot.
They do fight a lot.
Well, listen to the stronger one.
Oh, but I like him because blah blah.
Yeah, I know. I've heard
And the
those
rest
things.
of me's going, so
Yeah, yeah. I bet your intuition sounds a lot like my voice.
it's pretty negative that says he, there's nothing golden about him.
No, it's not negative. It's realistic
Hmm.
because you really have this beautiful romanticism to yourself, romantic side,
Well,
and
unfortunately,
it's hopeful.
I am hopeful. I do like to be a romantic. Um, I
Just pick better material to work with.
yes.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay, you are so careful in picking out your essential oils. Do the same thing with your men.
Okay, are you organic? How are you sourced?
Yeah, there you go.
Because I don't I don't go to my business mind when I'm in a relationship.
Well, you can merge it. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be either or. You can merge it. And I do a lot of coaching on relationships, so feel free to call me. You
I
won't
do
get it free like
wait.
Lou Ann does, but she's my friend and I love her.
Yes, it does help to talk about it. It does help, and it helps you personally when you find someone that can help you because you're able to voice it, and when you voice it, you actually hear it twice.
Hmm.
You hear it literally with your ears and internally. And so it makes you go, why did I think that was a good idea?
Well, here's the bottom line. No matter how deeply you love someone, if you're in a long term relationship, there are going to be days you want to smother them with a pillow.
Yeah,
And you're
there
not
will.
going to be in love. You will love them, but you will not be in love. And what gets you through those times is to have a mutual respect. And you cannot have a mutual respect if you don't trust them. And so you cannot trust them unless you know that they have integrity and they have earned your respect by always being truthful with you. So if you start out right in the very beginning, catching them in little white lies and untruths and uh, not giving you all the details, how will you ever have that mutual respect that you need 10 years down the road to get through that day that you want to smother them?
Yeah, that's the hard spot. I have, I don't feel like that respect and kindness was reciprocated for me.
No, no. And, the thing about it is that it's something we learn when you don't grow up being taught that.
Right.
My mother in law said something real funny to me the other day. She never listens to this, so I don't care. And she said that for years that she thought she was the normal one and everybody else was odd. And one of her friends at church says, "No, no, Lynn, you're the odd one because most people fight and yell and scream. They don't just put on their you
Happy
know
face.
yeah, and go through life that way. So
I don't
um,
yell and scream.
I don't think you have to yell and scream, but I think you have to really be persistent in getting to the bottom of things.
Hmm.
And so one of the things that Scott and I do, and we learned this, we because he comes from that very stoic background, and I come from the yelling and screaming. And if you drive away while I'm yelling at you, I may shoot the tire out of your car. Okay, so that's we come from very different perspectives. So we came to the understanding that he could not clam up on me forever, and I could not pester him to make him talk, but we would come and say, this is what we need to talk about, and we will agree to talk about this at this certain time and this certain day.
Hmm.
Now, it was hard for him knowing that was coming up, and it was hard for me to wait. So
Hmm.
we both had to put in a lot of effort, but we did it, and it works out great.
I'm not being optimistic about relationships right now.
Well, you don't need to be right now because you're not in one, and you're not going to go on a date tonight.
Or anytime soon.
That's not true. You don't know. I mean, you didn't know that
Uh,
you were going to date this guy. I
oh
mean, he
no, I
just
did
popped
not.
up out of the blue.
Correct.
God, you're really being a negative Nelly today.
Thank you.
You're welcome,
Negative
baby.
Nelly, thanks.
I love you.
And I'm not usually that way. I'm usually the most positive person you know.
Yeah, but you've been through a lot of changes this past year. So give
Yeah,
yourself a break.
yeah. I'm
Give
trying.
yourself a break. Allow yourself, go write down all the emotions you have, but do it with your left hand.
Dang it. I hate it when she gives me homework.
I know it. I've got to go do an ad for our
Okay.
business now. So,
Well, that's
all right.
good. That's good. So if you have any questions about essential oils, call me. If you have any questions about relationships, call Deborah.
Give them your website.
Oh, herbal.com. HERBAL dash LU.com.
And if you're watching this, you probably know how to find me, but it's Deborah Colleen Rose. Just Google it, you'll find me. So I'm all over
Pops
Google.
right up. All right.
All right. Love you,
Bye.
baby.
It was fun.
Love your show.
Love your show. Thank
Bye,
you.
y'all.
Bye.